double check the mic. Just talking that real quick, sitting right there. See if make sure the sound's right.
So I would put it. Would you have me put it up on the thing on my lapel?
Right.
So this is a test to see how the mic works.
Yeah.
This is Valle Jones talking about Whiskey Row.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Sam Heine. Welcome back to another episode of Street Talk. Hope everybody's doing really well out there, having a great week. I'm sitting here with Valle Jones at the Whiskey Row Strip down at 2nd and Main Street. Really historical Civil War era slew of buildings that have been revived and given a new life in the form of places that people can live, people can come down and eat, people can go shopping. And Val was one of the head developers on the project. And I just wanted to come down and talk to you about it because to me it stands out as one of the most prominent developments that I've seen in the city, just coming from such a rich history, preserving the facades outside. But then you also had a few bumps along the way, a couple fires. So I wanted to see what kind of emotions kind of played out as the development played out and what inspired you to get the whole thing started.
Well, the inspiration for getting the whole thing started, it started at the corner of 2nd and Main with what we call Whiskey Row Lofts. And that's two large buildings that we put together starting in around 2009, 2010. And what was inspiring for me was my father because he owned one of the buildings and he owned a number of buildings actually on this block along with a business partner and had a vision back in the mid-80s about what this block could be. Live, work, play, hotels, offices, etc. And that's actually very much what's proved to turn out to be the case. So I moved back here in 2008 to try to renovate the first couple of buildings, which we called Whiskey Row Lofts. And those are 5 restaurants and 35 apartments. We now have our first office tenant there, which is great. So it's truly a mixed-use development. But we couldn't have done anything without the Yum Center starting. Back in at that era, that was the capital markets were collapsing and financing was impossible to get except that the Yum Center was coming. And everybody could understand, or at least most people could understand, that 22,000 seats with U of L men's basketball was going to be a good thing to be next door to.
It's big, yeah. And I was going to say, Whiskey Row, KFC Yum Center, the Omni Hotel, all these big time projects are coming down to this area, and it's sort of reviving a downtown that fell off and went dormant for a number of years. But downtown used to be the hub of Louisville. Absolutely. And it seems like a healthy downtown is should be the hub of any city.
Absolutely.
What do you think these things are doing, from what you can tell, for the economy of Louisville, just community in general, and bringing people back down here?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. First is that it makes us much more appealing to tourists and tourism, including conventions. And that's hugely important because those are dollars from outside that come into Louisville, come into the state of Kentucky, that generate a lot of tax revenue and jobs. And that is all good. And we need interesting, unique, authentic places to eat. And that's what Whiskey Row is all about. There are a whole lot of one-off restaurants, mostly locally owned on this block. That's what people want. Usually when they come to a town for to go on an urban bourbon tour or to go to a convention, they want to know what's unique to Louisville. What is happening here, or what's a cool place that I can't find in Nashville or Indianapolis or New York City even. And so I think that's the authenticness of Whiskey Row, both in terms of the architecture, that these buildings were built in the Victorian era and they are 150 years old, and each one's got a different history and it's all interesting. Some very famous architects designed these buildings. And they're gorgeous, and each one's different looking, and I think that's attractive. And then on top of that, there are all these unique opportunities to to go to Doc Crow or to go to Sidebar, or now to go to the hall on Washington Street, to go to Duluth Trading. So I think it's a mixture of those things. Also, it brings local people downtown, people who haven't been downtown in maybe 10 years, literally.
Right.
Start coming downtown, maybe just first to go to a concert or a game at the Yum Center. Then they see there's all this cool stuff that they had no idea was going on, all these great places to eat and party. And so they say, well, maybe we'll come back another time when there isn't a game or a concert going on. And then the third thing is that it makes Louisville attractive to people your age.
Right.
You know, millennials and Gen X's and Gen Z's, they want urban living opportunities and a lively urban experience. And companies want to locate and stay where they can attract creative workers.
Right.
And so developing downtown has everything to do with keeping companies here and bringing more jobs.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of restaurants, but in terms of the companies who come because they can attract good workers.
Absolutely.
Because we've got a good, exciting downtown.
Yeah, there's a big buzz going on in downtown right now, and down into Nulu and Butchertown and Smoketown, Shelby Park. It's kind of coming up quick, and it's funny to me. It seems like a highway that is leading into downtown and all of these great neighborhoods that were slumping for a little bit.
That's right.
in terms of the economy and bringing money into the city and
Right.
having people come down to live there. They seem to be surging a little bit.
Yep.
And they're also in a very genuine and authentic way, in that these are 150 plus year old buildings, and to celebrate the facades and the interiors
That's right.
when they're being redeveloped, I think
That's
really
right.
stands out.
That's right, it's really important. I mean, you can go find new construction anywhere, but you cannot find a block like this of Victorian cast iron facade buildings anyplace else. In fact, Louisville has the second largest number of Victorian era cast iron facades anywhere outside of the cast iron district.
Yeah.
Sorry, the flat iron district in New York.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because whenever you said that, I thought back to old Louisville. I mean, it's like this collection of old houses, same kind of deal. And it's
those the same era. Those are the Victorian expensive residences, and these are the buildings that that group of people were building for their businesses.
It's hard to find that history, and then also plenty of things going on up and coming. So it's really a cool mix.
That's right.
One thing I like to ask is, what do you see? Because I think the concept of a downtown and making it healthy, attracting people to come live down here and spend their time down here, I think it's really interesting. Where do you see downtown Louisville going in the next 5 to 10 years? Because over the course of the last 10 to 15, it's really
It's changed a lot in 10 years.
Yeah.
It really has. Well, I think what's happening now is that regional and national developers are figuring out that Louisville has a lot going on. And so some of the really big new urban residential developments in downtown and just outside of downtown, some of them are being done by the die-hard, true blue Louisville developers who have been working in this community for 20 or 30 or more years. And we're now attracting people who are coming in from Indianapolis and Chicago and lots of other parts of the country who are doing big urban developments with a lot of amenities. That's something that we haven't seen in the past, where you've got 150 or 250 apartments, and they've got a theater, they've got a dog washing station, they've got a gym, they've got a lot of common amenities that creates a whole a residential community. And I think we're going to see more of that. There's another one that's just been announced this week. I think we're going to see more of that. I hope that we're also going to see that some of the surface parking lots, we have had way too many surface parking lots in downtown, and that some of those are now going to be developed as well, because we've got a lot of developable land still in the core of downtown. It's in the form of surface parking lots.
Right.
And that's really where that's where the opportunity is, and that's what we need to encourage development there, so that we can stay dense and walkable.
Absolutely. Cool. And then one thing in closing, what is one or two projects that you're working on or that's going on around town that you're excited about? And I guess while we're on that topic, what's a neighborhood that you're really excited about in Louisville that you see?
The project that I'm the most excited about, aside from anything that's got to do with Whiskey Row, really is the Sports and Learning Complex in West Louisville. I saw what the Yum Center did for this part of downtown. This entire block of Whiskey Row, there was one restaurant, Beer Nose Pizza, was open when we started construction in 2009. Now, you know, we're about to have 2 more hotels.
Yeah.
Basically, the entire block, with one exception, is developed. That wouldn't have happened without the Yum Center. I believe that the Sports and Learning Complex is going to do a similar kind of thing for West Louisville. And I'm very excited about that, because that's a part of town that has seen generations, literally generations of disinvestment, of redlining, of people not being able to buy homes and invest in homes because of the inability to get mortgages, the unwillingness of real estate brokers to show houses. And I think that that's going to generate hotels and motels and sit-down restaurants, and people are going to need places to shop, you know, to buy clothes and things that they didn't bring with them to the track meet, and entertain their kids, and movie theaters and other things like that. So I really think that the track facility is going to do for that part of West End what the Yum Center did for this part of downtown.
Yeah, it's exciting to see that there's a lot of good energy and intention going into the West End, because they need some help, but I think there's a lot of, like I said, good energy going into it, and hopefully we'll see it really come up.
Yeah, and they've broken ground on the outdoor track, so it's a real project. It is absolutely going to happen. And there's construction happening this fall.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Val, I appreciate you coming on.
Certainly.
This has been really cool. You're doing a lot of great work down here. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, I think anybody that lives in Louisville can see in their mind the iconic view of this facade outside going down the street. So.
Well, it's ours. These buildings belong to us.
Yeah.
I mean, as a community, they don't really belong legally. They belong to whoever owns them in the moment. But to me, this is a stewardship obligation. If you own a building that is this old and this historic and this important to our collective history, you really have an obligation to protect it and to take care of it. Because for future generations, just as the people have done that for us in the past, we have an obligation to do that. These buildings really belong to the Louisville community.
Yeah.
They're part of our history.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, awesome. You heard her, folks, and keep your eye on the development going on in West Louisville.
Yes.
And Val, again, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
See you next week, guys.